Welcome back, everyone. Phoenix 3 here today, and I'm going to talk about some Pokken tournament stuff. A friend of mine actually had some hands-on time with the game, a lot more than what I'm assuming most people have, and he gave me a deep analysis of it, like even more than what most people out there are saying. He's got to play the characters. He's seen the game. He's pretty impressed by it, and he gave me some information, and I'm going to try to share that with you guys as well. He said he wasn't allowed to record anything that's expected. They want to keep a lot of the secrets and stuff on the down low, and I don't have a problem with that. Video footage would have been nice to have, something that no one else has, but I mean, this is still kind of information no one else has. So consider this here like the first you're hearing of it. First off, he feels that that this is probably the best looking Pokemon game around, and I feel the same way about that too. Like, I just saw video and some screenshots. He got to actually see it in HD, so I'm quite jelly of that. But he said the same thing I said in the video, that the game just almost brought a tear to his eye, just because of how I can't describe how I feel about this game. But let me start by saying this isn't your traditional fighting game. Pokken Tournament isn't a fighting game just to have a fighting game. This is an actual Pokemon world. It's not like you have other games like Street Fighter or Tekken or just any other fighting game that exists for the sole purpose of being a fighter. This game doesn't give that impression. The entire game feels alive. And I'll talk about that. I guess I could talk about that now. As far as things like sounds and the stages go, he said in Crom Town that there's a bunch of Pidgey that are just in the background singing, and then a Hoot Hoot joins in and sings with them, then a Fletchling joins in and sings with them as well. That sense of livelihood you don't get in fighting games. Not many fighting games. Most fighting games just have these very depressing looking stages. There's always some conflict going on in the background, something's on fire or something like that. You just don't feel that you're included in the fight for the most part. And on this stage, Crom Town, you're essentially on a farm with everybody going about their everyday lives. You got the wildlife in the background just doing what they naturally do, and you just have a Pokemon battle going on in the center of it. That's the way I feel stages should be made. Stages should feel more alive than what they are. This works better for Pokemon because they're not an entire industrialized world. It's mostly rural area, and it works. The guy in the background, I was trying to figure out what it was, but I couldn't tell because the video quality was so bad. But there's a guy riding his bike with a Volcarona behind him, giving the impression that he's hatching his Pokemon eggs with Volcarona's flame body ability. That makes sense because a lot of us who play competitive Pokemon will have a Pokemon with flame body. I normally use Talonflame, and I'll get on my bike and I'll just ride back and forth to get the eggs to hatch, as well as all the other stuff that goes on in the background. Just makes the stage feel more lively. He got to play some of the characters, and he told me about some of the characters, and he feels that Pikachu probably shouldn't be in the game. And I feel the same way too, because I've watched some of Pikachu's gameplay, and he doesn't feel like Pikachu. It feels like they just put him in the game just because they need to have Pikachu in the game. There's no reason Raichu shouldn't have had the spot. He feels Raichu would have been a better choice for it. I agree with that too. But why go with Pikachu over Emoga, for example, or Pachirisu, or Plusor Minun? I mean, there are other options you can have for that. And for me, Pikachu just feels odd in this game because you wouldn't see Pikachu acting like this. Pikachu pretty much feels like Kazuya from Tekken to me. When I see Pikachu fight, when I see his win pose, when I see just how they portray Pikachu in this game, I think Kazuya all the way. And I'm like, this isn't Pikachu. Sure, it works and it looks good, but it's not Pikachu for the most part. He said he had the most fun playing as Lucario since he's probably the most balanced character. He feels that Lucario is going to be a go-to character for beginners just because of how easy he is to use. And I saw the same thing too. Lucario just seems he seems to work the battle system really well, and nothing wrong with that. We should have different ease of characters. I obviously don't want characters to be super easy to where they can be picked up and played by anybody and still win. But I also don't want characters to be super difficult to learn how to play either, because a lot of people aren't technical at video games or fighting games. I consider myself one of those people that aren't as technical as, say, any of the big names from Tekken or Street Fighter. And that's kind of the reason that I feel I like Super Smash Bros. 4 versus Super Smash Bros. Melee. Because I can play Melee, but I'm not as technical as the best Melee players. But in Smash 4, I can go toe-to-toe with the best players just because of my playstyle. And I kind of want this game to be like that too. I don't want it to be super easy where anybody can pick up and win. But if you know what you're doing, you should do well. And that's the way I feel games should be. If a player knows what they're doing, then they should do well. Now, Suicune was, he kind of confirmed my worst suspicions with Suicune. And I said in a video before, characters like Suicune, they aren't combo heavy characters. They tend to throw themselves around the battlefield or just spam projectiles. And he said Suicune is pretty much that, a zoner. And Suicune is really good at it. And he feels that Suicune is too fast when not in the zoning game, and has really good combos when forced to do the 2D fighting and not the circle fighting. And he feels that that Suicune is pretty cheap. So he said he asked Namco to nerf Suicune a little bit. Now, we all know that this series is like a is an alpha build for the most part. This isn't the final version of the game. Characters will be balanced, and I feel they're going to have to balance the characters really well with the addition of this stat system that they're going to have in the game to prevent it from not being Tekken Revolution. But this is kind of what I fear too. Machamp, I feel the same way about as well, but Suicune is kind of the character that is like, oh my goodness, this character is going to do this the entire time. Like, I don't mind characters having the ability to zone, but their close-up game shouldn't be as good as their zoning game. And to have a character to be really good at both just seems kind of unfair, especially when it comes to online play, because online play lags a lot, especially on a Nintendo console. Like, I have Tekken Tag Tournament 2 on the Wii U, and I can't find one game that it doesn't lag. All my online matches lag. Like, I don't even play the game anymore. I considered it a waste of, $60, which is actually kind of odd because the PlayStation 3 version only cost me $20 to get, but I spent $60 on it, assuming that there was going to be a community for it. But the community is bad, online is also bad, and the quality of matches are bad, which overall reduces the quality of the game. I don't want Suicune to be the character that reduces the quality of the game if the net code on the game is not that good. Now, this is Namco we're talking about. They have decent net code, but the Wii U, on the other hand, is just a system that doesn't handle online gaming well. Excuse me for a second. I had to take a drink of this Gatorade I got sitting here. Throat was getting a little dry. But I feel characters like Suicune can bring down a game if the online quality of gameplay isn't that good. Because there's nothing like playing a game and you're getting 7 frames a second. It's bad. Gardevoir, he feels that Gardevoir is pretty much graceful on the battlefield. Like Gardevoir is just doing things that look pretty, and that was obvious. Gardevoir doesn't really strike me as an overpowered character, though he said Gardevoir requires a lot of setup just to be able to get your hits in. But I'm interested in trying to figure out what Gardevoir actually does, because a lot of Gardevoir's attacks seem to have a wide area of effect, whereas Pikachu's attacks are just more in your face. They don't cover a large area of effect. Lucario doesn't cover a large area. Suicune to an extent doesn't cover a large area, but Suicune has more range than Pikachu and Lucario does. So I'm looking forward to see what Gardevoir does. I haven't seen a lot of Gardevoir's movesets. I don't think I have seen a video yet where Gardevoir is actually doing combos like the other characters were doing. Maybe there's one out there and I haven't seen it yet, but I haven't seen anything from it yet. Machamp, he feels, is at a large disadvantage in this game, and I feel the same way as well. Pikachu, Lucario, Suicune, and Gardevoir all have projectiles. They also can do combos as well. Machamp doesn't have projectiles, and he feels that's going to be the downfall of the character. And I was really hoping that wasn't the case. I was really hoping that Machamp would have ways of getting in, and I'm sure Machamp does have ways of getting in. But if you watch the battle that I posted of Machamp and Suicune, you see that Machamp couldn't get in at all. When Machamp did get in, Suicune put him back out and just kept him at that range. So they need to find a way to fix Machamp so Machamp doesn't get completely zoned out by all these other characters. A way they can do that is give Machamp some projectiles. I actually looked through Machamp's move list, and I've seen quite a few moves that can qualify as a projectile. For one, Machamp learns Vacuum Wave. Machamp could just throw air at the opponent. That's essentially what that is you're hitting the air so fast it turns into a projectile. I could see that working. Machamp also gets access to Mud Slap. Why not? If your opponent wants to just stay away the entire time and throw stuff at you, you can have Machamp just keep throwing mud at him. That works. Strength can be used as a projectile. Just have Machamp pick up a part of the stage and throw it at him. That seems plausible to me. Machamp gets Rock Tomb. Not exactly a projectile, but why not have Machamp throw rocks at the opponent? That seems like a good coverage option as well. Machamp also gets Hidden Power. I mean, Machamp has a lot of moves it can use as projectile. And the biggest one, Stone Edge, make it to where Machamp just punches the ground and a really fast rock trail follows the opponent and can hit them. This obviously probably wouldn't work against Pokemon that fly, but Machamp has options that it can use, and I want to see those options be pursued, because the way it is right now, Machamp not having projectiles means he's going to be the character in the game that nobody has a problem with. He considers Machamp to be the Zangief of Pokken Tournament, and he feels that Machamp feels a little unfinished, and I can see where he's getting that impression from. Another reason to do it is that you don't want to have characters that can't fight equally as well on your fighting system. If this were Tekken, for example, Machamp could just sidestep the projectiles and get in, sidestep the projectiles, get in, sidestep the projectiles, and get in. That's how it would normally work. Since this here is a fighting game, Machamp has to initiate the 2D fighting, because the opponent's not going to initiate the 2D fighting, and that's going to be hard for Machamp to do when he can't get in. I was thinking Machamp maybe got Taunt, but Machamp doesn't learn Taunt. I was thinking Machamp probably got Sky Drop, but Machamp doesn't learn Sky Drop. But Machamp does have a few moves that it can use, and considering this here is Machamp's first Pokemon game that it's actually in that's not a main series. I mean, Machamp was in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, but I'm not counting that for the purpose of Machamp being in the game. I'm talking like Machamp's appearance in something else like Super Smash Brothers or something else. But this here is Machamp's first game where you get to control Machamp as a playable character. And I want this to be a good experience for Machamp, because Machamp's not a favorite of mine, but Machamp was always a Pokemon I felt should have been in Super Smash Brothers, but wasn't. This is Machamp's chance to do well, and I want Machamp to do well. Machamp deserves to do well. But looking at the way things are now, the game isn't balanced for Machamp. So they need to kind of fix that a little bit, because I would like to play Machamp at least once or twice, but I don't want it to be like me playing Ganondorf online in Super Smash Brothers, where the very first character I come across is a Captain Falcon or a Fox or something like that. I think Zero Suit Samus is like his worst matchup, but I don't want it to be like I decide to play him and I go against Zero Suit Samus and I lose just because I can't get in on her, and I get outperformed by everyone. So this here seems pretty much like a performance issue on Machamp's part, because Gardevoir can keep Machamp out, Suicune can keep Machamp out, Lucario can keep Machamp out, and Pikachu does a very good job of keeping Machamp out. But this here all depends on your support Pokemon that you're using. For example, I think Eevee would probably pair well with Machamp if the health recovery is going to be good, I should say, because of the fact that Machamp has the highest HP of any Pokemon in the game. Machamp's base in this game is 660. That obviously is going to get higher. I think the lowest is, 580 or something like that. I think Pikachu is the lowest. Gameplay wise, he feels that the game is deep. He feels like you're playing the competitive Pokemon game just in real time. You're basically doing your best to outsmart your opponent. And when they make reference to the rock paper scissors scenario, I can kind of see where they're getting that from, because when I play on Pokemon Showdown, matchups are never 100%. You should always be able to assume that. Let me see for an example. I'm trying to find a good example. I will use my Zapdos against my opponent's let's see, what would be a good example here? Like a Zapdos against my opponent's, I'll say Blastoise. In almost every situation, Zapdos will beat Blastoise given equal opportunity. But in Pokemon, there hardly is ever equal opportunity. So you have to be like, okay, I will use Thunderbolt on it, and I can probably deal 70%. My Thunderbolt might not knock out. But what can Blastoise do to me? It can Ice Beam me. It can Blizzard me. It could be Choice Specs. It could be Life Orb. It could get a critical hit. It could get a it could freeze me, or I could get a critical hit. I mean, there's a number of things. Nothing is ever black and white. You know, the game never just ends at Zapdos using Thunderbolt on Blastoise or Blastoise using Ice Beam on Zapdos. There's always this other meta that goes on in there, because critical hits happen, freeze happens, paralysis happens. Maybe I paralyze my opponent's Blastoise and they can't attack me. Maybe that doesn't happen for me, but my opponent freezes me and I lose my Zapdos. Or he gets a critical hit and I lose my Zapdos. So there's always this extra stuff. It's like you want to play the game as safe as you can. And he feels that this is the exact same way. You want to make the best move you can while considering other factors. And with the way they had their battle system, where X beats Y and Y beats Z, you also have to keep that into consideration as well. You don't want to do. You don't always just want to rush in at an opponent, because, for example, if your opponent is playing Machamp, you have no reason to engage Machamp. You just keep Machamp out. If you're playing Machamp, then you have to force your way in. You have to figure out a way to do something. You use your assist to also help you out. Machamp does a lot better in the 2D fighting than the others do. So there's this meta that's just within the actual games of the characters. So I actually really can't wait to get my hands on this, or at least play it for myself so I can better explain. But he says he was impressed by the gameplay, and I was impressed basically on what I saw too. You know, this here is basically the way I would have wanted a Pokemon fighting game to work. Now that I actually think about it, I think it would be a bad idea for them to go the complete Tekken route. But he just feels that the gameplay is a lot like Street Fighter when in the 2D playing field. The visuals, like I said, he feels this is the best Pokemon he's ever looked, and I agree with that. I mean, Suicune looks amazing. I think Suicune is by far like the favorite model that they've designed for this game. It just looks amazing. A lot of the Pokemon look good. I like the way Machamp looks. Machamp just has muscles everywhere, and that's always the way I just imagine him looking. It's like, make him look like the Hulk. Just make him big and powerful, and that's how it should be. The stages, I pretty much already described Crom Town, but he says, what's this, Foss Volcano? I believe that's how it's pronounced. But he says that, let me see here. I'm trying to find something that looks good here. Well, he does say that the stage looks really, really good. There's other Pokemon in the background. So it turns out the Pokemon in the background wasn't a Machamp, it was a Machoke. Mokuhita's in the background sparring with other Pokemon. Female Pyroar helping a Patrat cross flames. I don't know what a Patrat will be doing there anyway, and why the Pyroar isn't eating said Patrat. But he said those were the only stages he got to play, so he didn't get to see the one with Lugia in it. That's the one I actually want to fight on. That stage just looks simply amazing. Oh man, he says the music is fantastic. He says it sounds like something from an old school Tekken game, but it keeps the Pokemon charmed that it likes. And they're using the same, if they're using the same director that does the music from like Tekken 7 or for Tekken 5 and Tekken 6, if they use him, then I already know the music's going to be good. There's just no way that like the music is going to be bad in this game. I actually want to do it. And all the Pokemon in the game do have their anime dubbed voices, so they're not going to be making sound effects. They will be, well, pretty much saying their name for the most part. And he feels the voice actors did a very good job portraying emotion and stuff like that with the characters. And just like something on the PS, he says Namco told him that they wanted the game to have a really big roster of Pokemon. So yeah, I guess we can expect a huge roster of Pokemon. They want to keep the emphasis on having as many Pokemon as possible to have a diverse roster. So I mean, we could be seeing anything. I don't know if we'll be seeing fish, because that would be odd. But if we do see them, they will be in the assist form. Now, when they say a big roster, we don't know if this is going to be like a playable roster or Pokemon that are just going to be support. You know, people like to be cryptic like that. But I do want to see like a playable roster of like maybe 150 Pokemon, or just go the old school route and put 151 Pokemon in the game and just have them playable from just other stuff. I know I want to see the Pokemon I like in the game. You guys want to see the Pokemon that you like in the game, and I really hope they actually they capture that. They keep the popular ones around. I don't think I'm not sure what else I should say here. I think I covered everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. But you know, I do really like the fact that they want to have a really large roster for the game, so that makes me happy. There's also the possibility of DLC, and DLC is a very good thing because that means more Pokemon in the game after the game gets released. And maybe this game can have like a 4-year cycle or something like that, or just until they decide they want to make the next one. But I want this game to be around for a long time. I know Nintendo, they want to support it at the Pokemon Video Game Championships and have that added on aside the video game and the trading card game. If Pokken Tournament does make the tournament scene, then I will be playing in every tournament I can just to play this game. So hopefully that happens. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I'm just gonna make just making making sure there's anything else I want to say. Well, I guess that's all I got there. So if you guys like this video, subscribe to my channel. I will be covering this game all throughout its development. Leave comments below. Tell me, what do you like about any of the characters in the game so far? How do you feel they can make them better? Or, I guess, make them worse, give them nerfs. Like I said, this here isn't going to be the final version of the game. All the Pokemon in this game are going to be balanced by the time it gets released. They're just getting people's feedback on it right now. Like the video, because the more likes it gets, the more popular it gets. And the more popular it gets, the more people that see it. And I want a lot of people to see the video series here for Pokken Tournament because it benefits everyone who's a fan of Pokemon. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching my videos, and I hope I see you all in the next one.